You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Jimmy, how are you today?
Good. Just having one of the busiest, most impossible Monday mornings of all time, I guess, like everyone else. It's a Monday.
It is, man, it's tough. But welcome into the podcast, the only podcast that slaps harder than Juwan Howard in a post-game handshake line. Jimmy, listen, I mean, we can sort of start right there. I did a individual video, sort of a solo video after the Alabama-Kentucky game the other day, and talked about it a little bit. Look, Alabama screwed that up. I mean, this is not a breeze, cost us the game, anything like that. We played piss poor defense down the stretch, but Kentucky was hot as a firecracker too. When their guys have errant passes that bounce off the butt of one player, that respective player picks up the ball and just jacks a three without even barely looking and nails it, it's not going to be your day. Kentucky is also better than Alabama. They're a better team than Alabama, even with two guards being out. They're the starting two guards for Kentucky being out. And Oscar Tshiebwe, to me, is the Oscar Tshiebwe is the player of the year in both the SEC and nationally. I'm fine with all that. And again, I was fine with this, but some Kentucky fans took issue with my discussion of Calipari and his run-in with the officials, which I still think is BS. And I'm going to I'm trying something new here, Jimmy. Let's see if it works. I put the picture up. I was able to do it. Look at me. Getting all techie. But now,
even properly crediting CBS and SEC with the photo in the upper right corner, which I believe is important.
I did not mean to do that, but I'm glad it did. I don't want to give anybody any credit. I want to take all the credit for this because I was able to do it, and I think that's important. But now,
I'm impressed.
Kentucky fans will be quick to tell you that John Adams, the referee, was the one who walked up to Calipari and reviewing the video. They are correct. But look at this. Calipari is leaning into him, and their heads are touching. If they're not touching, they're so close to touching, it's almost sensual.
It is a love story. It's a love story.
It is a love story, and love is love. But this cannot happen where something like that goes down and there's no technical given. Especially when, look, I was totally fine with Darius Miles getting a tech for his, I wouldn't have called it a flagrant, but I mean, he sort of gave a mild love tap in the face of another guy who was jawing with him. You can't do that. Can't do that, Darius Miles. It was, it affected the game. It was something very stupid. He should have been teched for it or whatever he got. I'm totally fine with that. I didn't really understand why we got the ball back. I mean, again, sometimes with technicals, the rules just seem ambiguous at times. But anyway, I mean, I understand they shot 2 free throws. I would have given them 2 free throws and the ball, to be quite honest with you. However, there's no other coach in this league, dare I say in this country, that is able to do what John Calipari did and get away with it. And you can say, again, John Adams came up to him. That's fine. That's fine. I think it's Calipari's duty to not lean into him that way and touch foreheads. I think that's his duty. And I think it's also just like it's Juwan Howard's duty to not open face slap another human being, regardless of the fact I've seen the tweets about, well, he grabbed him. And if you grab somebody, first of all, he didn't really Coach Guard for Wisconsin didn't really grab him. He sort of got his arm and was that you could tell there had been some word saying, and I think Guard wanted to explain his position. Guard shouldn't have done that. I'm fine with Guard being suspended a game. Have no problem with it if that happens. Juwan Howard should not coach basketball again this year. Now, I'm fine if they fire him. I'd forgotten about the run-in with Mark Turgeon last year. Juwan Howard has an anger management issue that is obvious as the day is long. You can't do that. Again, I've also seen guys like Dickie V, who's a basketball god, say things like, let's get rid of the handshake line. Really? We can't be adults? you can't be an adult for 5 minutes. Coaches lose their minds when a player gets into a fight or gets into a kerfuffle on the court. And you know what they always say? You got to keep your emotions in check. And then we can't ask the coaches to do it when the game is over. And also, Juwan Howard, quit pressing when you're down a gazillion. If you don't want the other coach to call a timeout, if his subs can't get it over the line, pressing with your starters, by the way.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack there, Luke. That's a lot to address. I just feel slightly differently about the text. Look, I think I was upset that Calipari didn't get a technical for two reasons. Number one, I thought what Calipari did was worse than what Darius Miles did. I don't understand. It just seemed that contact with an official, arguing with an official to that extent, that blatantly and disrespectfully, to me, was far worse than Darius Miles' mouse fart contact with the Kentucky guy who was hand fighting with him, as well. And then on top of Oates being ejected the game before for seemingly less than what Calipari did and didn't even get one. I'm just real confused by what the officiating is. I say eject Oates, tee up Cal, tee up Miles, fine, or none of it, or don't eject Oates. Don't give Cal a tech. Don't give Miles a tech. But don't just pick and choose. It just seems so random and stupid. Is my problem with it is the lack of consistency in the officiating, which has obviously been a big deal all over the country. They addressed it on game day Saturday morning, and then we saw it, on full display there, which is a complete inconsistency in how they're calling these things. As far as Juwan goes, I mean, to me, it's more simple than complicated. I think it is up to the Big Ten to suspend Juwan Howard for a significant time period. I don't even like one game myself for that. I mean, I think he should be suspended by the Big Ten Conference for maybe 3 games to send a message, that you can't do that and then coach in this and think that we're not going to give a significant punishment. And then I think Michigan should consider firing him. That's up to Michigan. I'm not going to criticize Michigan for not firing him, nor am I going to criticize Michigan for firing him. I think that's just a Michigan decision, and whatever they do, that's fine. But I'm more interested in the Big Ten, which does not employ Juwan Howard. They tolerate his behavior, or they don't. And I think the Big Ten should suspend him for multiple games. And as far as guard goes, I mean, he doesn't have a suspension coming. He doesn't have a suspension coming. He didn't do anything that merits any sort of suspension or punishment. But I'm putting him now on my list of butthole coaches. I mean, okay. I will look at him differently in a negative fashion for what he did too. But it's not a suspension. You don't get fired. It's just like, well, welcome to the list of buttholes.
Well, first of all, I'm impressed you have that list.
Too, it gets longer all the time.
Secondly,
we're both on it too, by the way.
Yeah, well, the list is named after us. But anyway, what also happened almost immediately after this was let's figure out why this happened, because guard grabbed, Juwan Howard hits an assistant because he was really arguing with coach from Wisconsin who had grabbed his arm. There wasn't really a grab, but you're not supposed to impede somebody when they're angry like that. And also because he called the timeout, because I'm tired of going back to the root of every single problem. I like what you said. Keep it simple. You can't hit somebody as a coach. Be an adult. And if you can't do that, you don't need to be coaching. It's that simple. No assistant principal or superintendent could hit a subordinate or another assistant or another principal or a student or a teacher and keep their job. They cannot do it. And here's the other thing it goes back to. First of all, Jay Billis had an article about officiating on ESPN and basically said it sucks. It sucks this year. One of the problems is, and I attribute some of the stuff for the Calipari, some of the stuff with Juwan Howard, officials are letting the game get way too physical. Yes. And they need to, I know this is going to suck for the short term, and Jay Billis brought this up. Call more fouls right now. Set the standard of, this is where we're going to call this. Because as the games go on, players will start to adjust. Now, in the first game, there'll be 50 fouls. The first week, there'll be 50 fouls a game. I can live with that if they'll clean this game up. And I know we all love the days of the old NBA where if you went for a layup, you usually got hit in the groin and were impotent for the rest of your. Those days are over. Just like targeting in football, those days are over. Let's get over that, because now the guys are so big and so strong and the tensions get so high. And we're also in the day of social media when people just love to talk trash every single minute of the day, that I think everybody's anxiety and anger is up in general. And so it leads to coaches slapping the hell out of assistant coaches who really weren't involved in it. So anyway, let me tell everybody about Bet Online. Segue of the year. Football might be over for this season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. For all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, like Juwan Howard, BetOnline.net is the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, UFC odds, right up to Olympic coverage and information, even though that's over now, so no need to try and bet on that. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline is where the game starts, Jimmy. You know I've always said that. Now, I want to tell you about Built Bar. Look, I love these things. This is the time of year I've pretty much given up on all my New Year's resolutions. Not this year. I'm still eating my Built Bars. I'm doing right by myself. Built Bars are awesome. Have you tried the Puffs? They're fantastic. If you haven't, you're missing out on one of the Built Bars' best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. That sounds like something out of a science fiction movie. They're fluffy. They're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar. They're a treat. They're covered in 100% real chocolate. Go to Built.com and scroll down to the macros chart. You'll be blown away. High protein, low cal, high fiber, low carb, all the highs that you want, all the lows that you want at Built.com. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15, get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15, all one big giant conglomeration of words and letters and numbers, for 15% off at Built.com. All right, Jimmy. So, big weekend for Alabama this past weekend. I know Alabama lost on the court men's basketball wise, and this will be a short segment, but because we don't know a lot about these sports, and so I'm not going to pretend like I do. But best I can tell, the baseball team got a sweep over Xavier. Some of those games in dramatic fashion. That's nice. Start out 3-0, especially with number one Texas looming this weekend. Softball, they dominate in sweeping in their match at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech was like ranked number 8 or number 9 or something, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Women's basketball, they win at Texas A&M in double OT. Again, this isn't a women's basketball podcast. I'm not going to pretend it is.
Right.
Kudos to these ladies. I mean, they're not turned it around, but they're getting better. And I'm getting to the point where I'm willing to give this coach another year or two. Is that crazy?
So funny, because I just mentioned something on the On3 board, not like a formal calling for firing, but a couple of games ago, I was like, is this it? I mean, has this gone on too long? I mean, the record's not good. I mean, the record's not good, and it hasn't been good. And for the first time ever, suggesting that maybe it's time we start thinking about a change. They completely turn into a different team. And I mean, I'm as everybody knows, I'm not the fire the coach fan, and I only want to do that when you have to do that. And heck, I'm impressed with what they've done the last couple games out, especially especially the win over Tennessee. What the softball's doing is it's unbelievable. I mean, I think I added it up this morning. They are now 9-0, and they have outscored their opponents, I believe, 65-7.
Good Lord.
65-7. And if you're like, well, it's early, it's non-conference games, they're just beating up teams. No. 3 of the 9 games have been against top 10 teams. The score against top 10 teams, 14-0.
God.
5 of their 9 games have been run rule games where they've had an 8-run lead. So they call the game off after 5 innings because the lead is too big and humiliating. They're pitching great. They're pitching 4 pitchers. All 4 have been great. They're raining home runs. And what's exciting is so much of it is newcomers. A couple of freshmen, Megan Bloodworth and Dallas Goodnight, have been unbelievable. And the 2 transfers, ironically, from Tennessee and Ohio State. Doesn't that sound like football? The transfers from Tennessee and Ohio State have been fantastic. Softball, unbelievable. Baseball, sweeps Xavier. Baseball won all 3 games. Give them a lot of credit for that, including the fun walk-off. Baseball not doing it like softball, though. I think the baseball won 5-4, 5-4, and 9-4. They didn't exactly, destroy Xavier over the weekend like the softball's been doing, but that's okay. It's a different sport, different standard that's been set there. And I think baseball's off to a good start. We'll find out, as you pointed out, Luke, we'll know exactly where baseball stands after next weekend on the road against the number 1 team in the country. I think just winning 1 of those 3 games would be really good.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself.
Yep.
Were you giving me a hand signal? I like that.
I was, yeah, but I couldn't find my own camera. So the camera's on here somewhere.
I was going to say that I would definitely take 1 win this weekend. And that's going to lead us into our next segment about basketball. You have an interesting poll up on the on three, whatever, on 3. I screwed that up. I'm trying to give you props and screwed it up. But on3.com, you have an interesting question. We're going to talk about that in the next segment right after this break. And if you're watching on video, it wasn't a break at all. But if you're listening on the podcast, it was a mild break. All right, Jimmy, you had a great question. I've always believed this too. You said, I can't remember what it is verbatim, but something like, okay, in basketball, would you rather go 25-6, be a number 3 seed that gets bounced in the first round? You win the league, whatever. Or would you rather be 18-14, be a 7 seed, and make it to the Sweet 16? And this is a no-brainer for me. I'd rather be 18-14, make it to the Sweet 16. I know that sounds crazy because I'm a football guy. I'm big on the regular season, but the regular season just isn't as important in basketball. It's the tournament. That's it. You know what? Nobody remembers what UConn did in the regular season before they won the national championship as what, an 8 seed or a 9 seed that year when Kemba Walker went off. Nobody remembers that. They just remember Kemba Walker going off and winning the national championship. Nobody remembers what the hell Loyola Chicago did in the regular season. They just know they made the Final Four. That's all that matters in the tournament. And that's why I don't want to expand football yet again, because I love the regular season in football, but the regular season in basketball just ain't that big a deal.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think to nutshell it, yeah, I think the same way. I would rather have the Sweet 16 team that struggled some during the regular season. I just think that the tournament is that important. It's everything. Now, when I say it's everything, I'll have this caveat. I think I would take the outstanding regular season and a first round NCAA tournament loss if I won my conference. If I won the SEC and won the SEC tournament, because that way you're a champion. I mean, you got titles. You won titles. You won a great regular season title. You might have won the conference tournament title. That might be better than a Sweet 16 appearance. I will put that caveat in. But based on the example that I laid out, Yes, I do believe that winning, getting to the Sweet 16 is a bigger deal. And the reason that I ask that is I've seen too many negative posts on social media about how this season has not lived up to expectations. And that's what led me to like, well, wait a minute. What were the expectations? This season has only been disappointing if your expectation it was to win the SEC. Alabama's not going to do that. Alabama's not going to repeat as SEC champions. But I didn't predict Alabama to win the SEC. I don't think you did. I don't recall seeing any credible media source that picked Alabama to win the SEC. Kentucky was sort of the consensus pick to win the league. Now Alabama was picked to finish second and third, and Alabama's going to finish slightly short of that, maybe fourth, maybe fifth. But Alabama's expectations can't be addressed, in my opinion, until the NCAA tournament is over. If this team loses in the first round of the NCAA tournament, then I will agree this season's been a disappointment. Too many losses, nothing to speak of that happened positively in the postseason. But we don't know yet we don't know yet what's going to happen. In fact, I think we've seen enough from this team to where I personally will believe that we're going to make some noise in the NCAA tournament. I don't believe that we're going to be one and done in the NCAA tournament. I think it's possible, of course, but I'm expecting to go to the NCAA tournament and win at least one game and very possibly two and get to the Sweet 16. And should we at that point, then the season is a raging success. I don't care what the record was during the regular season. We played one of the toughest schedules of all time and got to the Sweet 16. It would make it one of the great seasons in Alabama history. So that's what kind of set me off on it and got me talking about it is what were these expectations that people had. I also posted on On3 the other day about how, look, my expectations a year ago, right when we lost to UCLA, I said Alabama's going to win the national championship next year. I said that. I believed it at the time that I wrote it. But what happened since I wrote that? We lost Primo. I didn't think we were losing Josh. Right when we lost to UCLA, I did not think Josh Primo was going to be a first-round pick.
And Burnett.
Draft. My expectations changed when the roster changed. And then beyond that, you lose Damari Burnett. And boy, have we missed Primo and Burnett? Add those two guys to what we would have right now, and who knows where we would be, because they're exactly what we've been missing, frankly. You know, a long defender, two great shooters. So my expectations changed when the roster changed. If y'all's expectations didn't change when the roster changed, I don't know what to tell you. Go predict that that Virginia is going to win the national football championship because you don't care about who's on the rosters, who's the actual players on the team that are gonna try to achieve something. To me, the roster is the expectations. And once Alabama lost Primo and Burnett, I thought, wow, this could still be a really good team that accomplishes some really good things, but they're not going to win the national championship. They're probably not even going to win the SEC. And that's exactly what's happened. And they can still achieve great things per Alabama historical standards.
One more thought about this before we get out of here, but you mentioned 2002 and winning the SEC, and I'll say this, though, that 2002 winning the SEC has a bit of a stank on it because we lost in the second round to Kent State, and not even like at a buzzer beater. We lost 71-58. We got the hell beat out of us. I know Kent State went on to the Elite Eight. Don't care about that. That 2002 team has a bit of an asterisk beside it. I mean, winning the league was great, but if you remember, we lost the SEC championship game in Atlanta to Mississippi State by 3. We lost, I think, the regular season finale at Ole Miss by like 30, and then we get beat by Kent State. And all of a sudden, it does put a bit of a damper on the season. It feels like you do all this work and you kick all this butt, and then you get in the big dance and you sort of flub it. But regardless, Jim, go ahead.
No, I was going to say this week I'm going to rank the top 10 seasons in Alabama basketball history. It's certainly going to create some discussion. People will disagree with me. Of course they will. No one's going to say, oh, here's our top 10 seasons, and everyone that reads it goes, boy, he nailed that. He got that right, 1 through 10. No, everybody's going to have a different opinion. But but I am going to rank, okay, what have been the 10 best seasons we've ever had? And I'm going to say, I say all the time whenever I do rankings like this, I'm going to have as little subjective opinion as possible. In other words, there's not going to be a lot of Jimmy opinion in it outside of this. I'm going to come up with a point total for winning the SEC, a point total for winning the SEC tournament, a point total for winning a first round game, a second round game, a Sweet 16 game. And I'm going to come up with I want an objective test based on wins, tournament wins, championships, and how you did in the NCAA tournament. And it's going to be heavily weighted with how you did in the NCAA tournament. And I'm going to come up with what are the 10 best seasons in that fashion. It's not just going to be Jimmy's subjective opinion that, well, that 91 team that lost to Loyola was better than the 02 team that won the SEC. No, I'm going to look at wins, championships, how you did in the NCAA tournament. That's going to determine the list for me.
All right, buddy. That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow, getting you ready for Bama Vanderbilt, a game Alabama really needs in Nashville on Tuesday night. But until then, roll Tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.
I always got to wait for you to do it, and you always forget. It's Alabama.
That time I was already thinking about our next show. Hey, I think we could do